Hi and welcome. So today we are looking and we're talking to you if you want to look at your personal growth, right? If you want to better understand yourself. And we're going to go through what roughly has been covered in the last 50 years of psychology research, right? Now we're boiling this down a little bit so that it is simple for you to understand for what it means to you as you are working on changing your behavior, changing a part of your life, improving yourself, supporting yourself to be more effective. And to do this, I have here Lucy Faulconer. So Lucy is the general manager of the Being Profile, and she has had a background initially in organizational psychology and in management consulting before becoming a leadership and executive coach. So Lucy, do you want to welcome everyone?
Welcome, everyone. It's great to be here speaking to you and hopefully adding enough value for you to understand where we come from and why we choose the paradigm we work from.
Fantastic. So there's a lot for us to go through in a short amount of time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ariya Chittasy from ingenesis.com. And my original background was in psychology. I've done a bachelor degree of psychology from the University of Sydney. And before I then went and worked in the business world, working with now our team over about 800 startups and entrepreneurs using these types of tools and things in the business world. So I'm quite intrigued and excited for what we are going to go through here today. Now, one thing just before we dive in is this is not some academic lecture or something. We are just boiling these down in a way that you can apply them. And if you there's a lot we could go into, but we're trying to make it here as simple as possible. So let us start here. So we have this image here of a person, right? Ideally, you, me, one of us. We have our decisions and behaviors, and then that leading to our accomplishments and experiences. And this was one big focus, particularly in psychology. The technical term is behaviorism, right? A focus on behavior. So when you are trying to change something, Lucy, how have you applied this or seen this with clients and with the work we do?
The first place we go when we want to reach a different result is okay, what can I do differently? What behavior can I change? What can I start doing that I'm not doing? So maybe it's having different planning sessions, having different habits I put in place. And we expect that from that, we're going to have a different result.
Absolutely. So now, from the psychology point of view, a big thing was going, this is something we can see, right? We can observe that. And since we can observe it, we can measure it. So it was something really easy for us to come to agreement on, all right? But let's look at, as that has come down into a more popular understanding, what that has turned into when we go and try to apply it. So if you are someone thinking about, okay, how do I change this thing in my life? Have you seen some of these things, right? Things like, okay, it's just about doing it, right? Don't think about it, just go and do it. Go to the gym, start working out, start waking up every morning at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So can you see how these types of things are focusing on the behavior, right? Looking at how that's going to impact your result. So how have you seen benefit in this approach, Lucy?
There's definitely things we can do. And there is things that you can put in place as practices that support you build like the structures so then you can go and achieve things. So for example, yes, if you want to get fitter, you join a gym and you start going to a gym. And if you go frequently and you do that, you start seeing results.
So if you're listening to this, take a moment to think about, maybe it has been a book you've read, or you've gone to a course or something. You've looked at it from a behavioral approach, right? How has this mapped when you tried to change something, and you took this behavioral approach so you can connect those dots, right? Now, so the thing we want to say is that there's definitely benefit in this, and if you can see an action to take, you want to go and do it. But there's also a limitation. If this is the only approach you're taking, we find that if only I was more disciplined becomes the sort of edge of the wall, right? Because you go, oh, I just didn't go to the gym. Yeah.
And we start to understand also that that behavior, no matter how clear we have it, how much we can track if we've done it or we haven't done it, there is something that goes beyond that behavior that allows us to actually be consistent and continuing doing the things that we know we want to or we need to do.
Yeah, that's so great. And that's actually a perfect stepping stone to what we want to look at next, because let's take it one step deeper. Now, the time and place was when in psychology we started also looking at the machinery, the technology, particularly to neuroscience. So we started scanning people's brains, right? And this was a big deal because before it was like, oh, everyone just experienced their thought. But now we could scan it and we could see that something physical was going on that could be verified through different people. And so this focus on thoughts and then gradually to feelings and emotions, but we're going to particularly focus on thoughts, which is a type of cognitive view, right? The technical term is taking a cognitive approach, looking at what you're thinking, okay? Now, again, we could go into lots of different subjects. We could go into emotions, we could go into different mental models, but we want to focus on one thing that has become quite popular, which is something like positive thinking and thinking that if you just keep changing your thoughts, then the results are going to come. So how have you seen this in practice?
I think one of the biggest one I hear a lot of is I'm confident. So if you keep telling yourself that you're confident and reaffirming that in your head, you're going to start feeling confident. And the feeling's going to come if you create that thought in your head. The same is if I take negative thinking out of the equation. So I turned everything into a positive. And that is then going to create those feelings and those results that we're looking for.
Yeah. So we want you to take a bit of a view and understanding that here you are, you're trying to change something in your life, whatever that is. Maybe it's in your business, maybe it's your health, something like that. You may have tried the behavioral approach we just spoke about, but then perhaps you have tried this yourself, taking this cognitive approach, going, if I just think a different way, then that's going to create the results. And again, these work, right? We would definitely say thinking positive, typically it's going to be better than thinking absolutely negative. But there's a bit of a limitation. If that is all you are going to look at, there still seems to be something more to the equation or more running the show.
And one key thing there is that this is where you're trying to understand. So you're trying to cognitively understand what it is that might be getting in the way or how you need to think so that then you start doing those things or getting those results that you're looking for.
So we spoke about the behavioral approach and then the cognitive approach. So let's go one step deeper. Let's go in one step to the core. And this is another angle that psychology has looked at it in the last 50 years, which is your personality. So have you ever looked at trying to change something? You've tried to change your behavior, you tried to think differently about it, but then you hit this type of rock, that's why we put that here, which feels like that is just who I am. That's just my personality. So Lucy, what have you seen here?
I've seen that a lot of us fall into this paradigm where we see ourselves as fixed a certain way, where you might think there's parts of you that you can't change. Yes, so if you are an introvert or maybe you're very driven, and with that drive you might take people out of the way at certain stages, like being a type A personality, very driven, and you see yourself as set that way.
Yeah. And now we are not saying that it's easy to just go and change everything. And, perhaps some things are much harder to change than others. But if you only take this approach, then you're looking for the things that are fixed, right? You're coming with this approach that, okay, this is just who I am. I was born this way. And the best thing you can do is then find others to balance you out.
Or find places where your personality fits in. So even if you wanted to go to a certain position or role or kind of industry, for example, you just say you don't fit in.
So there's definitely parts of this which is great, that you can raise your awareness, reflecting on how your behavior is and the tendencies you have. But one of the issues we find is that you can just get stuck in just going, okay, I simply can't change that thing and move to the life or the business that I'm looking for, because that's just the way I am, right?
And we hear it time and time again.
That's the thing. So what we were looking at when we, at the being profile and the being framework, when we were looking at this, we were going, there must be something more than this picture so far. And that's where we started looking down deep and going, okay, it's actually your being that is playing a role. It's your being that ripples into your thoughts and your feelings. And that ripples into your decisions and behaviors and becomes your accomplishments. So Lucy, what have you found with the community when you start working on your being? How is it different to the other layers?
The first thing is articulating, well, what is being? And then when we are able to tap into it and understand it, articulate it, and mainly distinguish what our being is, we get the opportunity to then start doing the work in transforming our being. And that's the beauty of it. We can transform our being. And what it creates is a ripple effect, where it's not only one behavior that you change. So for example, it's not that now you just become consistent at going to the gym. What shifts is the way you show up, how you relate to so many different aspects in your life, that you start seeing this ripple effect.
Yeah, and that's so great. So this is the thing that we want to introduce you to, that if you are someone who is trying to change some behavior, get a different result in your life, your business, your organization, and perhaps you've tried focusing on the decisions and the behaviors, the thoughts and feelings, maybe you felt stuck with your personality, right? Your fixed personality. Well, this is not just a different approach. As you can see, it's like each of them are playing a role of the snapshot from a different lens, so that you can bring it all together to work on you holistically, right? As a person, as a human being, with all of these different things going on for you.
The main thing is that focusing on these and personality is something that we're more used to. So in the common usage of language, of changing and getting results, we normally live here. So what we offer is giving you another lens to look at yourself in a way that is more invisible to us, because we don't have the language and we find it difficult to articulate sometimes, but that when you see it, it's everywhere and it is constantly there with you, like you can't stop being. And to be able to distinguish it, that is what we believe creates such a huge impact.
Yeah. So if you're interested in now asking the question, what's driving me down deep there, right, in your thoughts and your feelings, and then coming out to behavior, then you may want to start looking into understanding your being at that level. And that's the role of the being framework. So the being framework starts to break your being down into smaller chunks so that you can more easily understand them and get to understand yourself. And by the way, when you start to do that, you then start to understand others, because you realize they're human beings too. They're going through the same things, dealing with some of the same stuff, so that they can, live and experience the life that they want.
So if you're interested in learning more about this, distinguishing this for yourself and the impact this can have in your life, if you know a being profile practitioner, you can go to them and ask them to guide you what the next steps would be. If you don't know one, you can come to the website beingprofile.com and write to us. There's a lot of information available. You can contact us with your questions, what the next steps would be for you, and one of the team will be in touch.
Excellent. So we hope you got some value today in changing some part of yourself, of your business, your life, looking through different aspects of what has been there in psychology in roughly the last 50 years, and then also looking at your being. So we hope to see you next time. Until then, we'll see you soon.
Thank you.